In the midst of a chaotic city, you're stuck in traffic, miles long, wondering about your daily frustration, about your mundane life, and the slavery that it has put you in. You look around, feel irritated, and that's when you start craving for the highway. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of Decoding the Metaphor. Today, we will be understanding some screenwriting aspects through the movie Highway. Highway is an Imtiaz Ali typical, a swift and a representative take on setting yourself free. It establishes the contrast between the time when you have accepted slavery and the time when you realize the availability of a sudden and unexpected freedom. We will be mainly looking at the storyline of the movie and also some other aspects which enhance the experience of the audience in a very subtle manner. So let's get started. The three act structure. The plot of this movie follows something that is called as the three act structure. A movie is generally composed of three different acts. The first one shows an introduction and a character setup. The second one has a conflict and a confrontation wherein the characters are exposed to certain drastic and irreversible changes. It also involves the characters making certain decisions which change their life completely. And finally, the third one is about the resolution of this conflict. Typically, these three acts are one fourth of the film, half the film, and the remaining one fourth of the film, respectively. The first act of Highway is all about getting to know Veera and Bhati and what situation they are in. It conveys a lot about the characters in a very short span of time, especially about Veera. She is rich, about to get married, but wanting to go free and wild. She is kidnapped by Bhati, who is an adamant and self respected goon. The contrast in the movie starts right here. After the kidnapping, Veera obviously tries to escape, but at a certain point, she is completely lost and makes a decision to go back to Bhati. This event marks the end of the first act and takes us into the second act, where we start understanding the life of the characters and why they are what they are. Bhati is initially indifferent to Veera's disturbing past, but later starts to silently empathize with her by just being a listener. They confront each other in a very subtle manner, and this leads to them having no choice but to accept each other. In fact, each of them is affected by and changed in several ways by the other. While a softer side of Bhati emerges gradually, Veera finds some place in the world where she feels safe in spite of being completely exposed. Eventually, both Veera and Bhati embrace the situation no matter how hard it is, and that brings us to the final act of the film, the resolution. Though our characters are now happy and well settled, the situation outside is burning. Bhati is still the kidnapper and Veera is still trapped. The end is tragic with Bhati dead and Veera left craving for her, or rather craving for a safe place for herself, which she tries to find in a small town far away from the family, the city, and the chaos. Now let's have a look at some points which boost the elements of the three acts. Montages. Of course, Imtiaz Ali is the king of montages. Be it any of his films, montages form an integral part of an Imtiaz Ali film. Montages are small patches of various incidents which take the story forward much faster by just showing the glimpses of those incidents. They convey a much longer description of text in a concise format. These are typically used to show passage of time or activities like search, training, flashback, etc. The story about search for Veera is shown almost midway into the film, and that too in a montage. That part is just for information of the audience and is not the main focus of the story. So the movie doesn't linger around that unnecessary part, it quickly moves through a montage. The picturization of songs through montages aptly go hand in hand with the lyrics of the song. For example, Suha Saha depicts Bhatti's flashback and his storyline. We have already talked about show, don't tell in the first episode. Filmmakers always have some subtext to convey to the audience. Imtiaz has used small and precise depictions to convey these things rather than just inserting them as facts in the dialogues. This makes it more visual. Check how Bhati is shown changing the number plates to indicate that they will be moving into Rajasthan from Delhi and into Punjab from Rajasthan. You think that was an easy one? Well then, did you notice how more and more difficult it gets for Bhati to close the door of the truck or to close the shutter on Veera? This clearly symbolizes the behavioral change that Bhati goes through. Initially, he is indifferent to Veera, but later on, as the story unfolds and as he gets more and more involved in Veera, it becomes difficult for him to ignore her. This helps in strengthening the aspects of second act of the movie. Blocking. Towards the end of the film, there is a typical scene involving many family members in the same frame. That is when Veera reveals her past sufferings and directly accuses her uncle. Now, when the uncle starts blabbering on her, it becomes quite obvious that he will be exiting the frame. But where? Imtiaz gives him a cross exit, much inspired from the exits shown in stage plays, to put a situation to rest and to change gear. Here, Veera's expressions shift from a particular incident to an overall suffering. The cross exit also gives time for the other members to settle from the shock that they have just received. This starts the build up to the climax and conclusion of the movie. The cross exit also goes in line with the traditional principle of showing negatives to the left hand side of the frame. These were just a few instances of the film that made it stand out. Of course, there are many more. Please tell us what you liked about the movie. I will be back to analyze more movies in the next episode. Do let us know your suggestions in the comment section, and thanks a lot for watching.